Hello everyone and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. Yes, the background is looking a little bit different from normal, I think you will agree, and it is not some kind of fake screen. I had some students asking me whether the screen was one of those fake MS Teams or Zoom backgrounds that you can use, and I can guarantee it is absolutely not. I'm coming to you live from my office at the University of Warwick, and we are in the process of packing up and heading to new climes, a new building, the new Faculty of Arts building, which is now known across the landscape as Fab, the Fab, and we are in the process of moving to it. We have actually been in the process of moving to it for some time. These boxes are packed up for some time, but the inevitable delays that we're getting used to now because of Brexit and COVID and everything else have delayed the delivery of the building. So instead we're living with our boxes behind us, and what a fantastic backdrop it makes, I think you will agree. But here is the sum, you can see the sum total of my office knowledge here, of all the books that I keep before me. 23 boxes worth in my office that I'm hoping to squeeze into the new office in the Fab. And I think I can tell you, I think I can reveal this now, a little secret for you here, that the atrium of the new Fab building at the University of Warwick is going to be called the Agora, or Agora, whichever you prefer. So we've got the Greek in there in the Agora. We can all be hanging out in the Agora together, and even more excitingly, there is going to be a reflective space outside, a sort of semicircular amphitheatre type space out in the landscape gardens outside of the Fab, which has a series of Delphic trees planted in it. Now these Delphic trees, again, this will be coming up more publicly in the future when the Fab building is officially launched, and there are some big events to celebrate that. But the Delphic trees are trees from Delphi that were grown here in the UK from seedlings brought back from Delphi, and they were donated to the University of Warwick by the Greek Press Association in honour of my work on Delphi, and particularly to kind of signify that creation of a Delphic space here at the University of Warwick for reflection, mediation, and of course that most important of Delphic proverbs, gnothi saphton, know thyself. So it's great to see the Delphic trees are now actually in the ground, creating that meditative space, and we look forward to being able to commemorate that more officially in the future. Will it have an oracle, says Sarah Scotty? No, not indeed. Will we have to pay to watch you now? No, is this Amazon TV? No, this is not Amazon TV in any way, shape or form. But don't you worry, we are coming free as ever. We're just packed up in boxes for a little bit, but in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully, maybe we can do a Q&A from the new Fab building and the new offices. Although I have to say, I've seen the inside of one of the lecture rooms, and somebody has ended up picking a sort of lime green fabric material for the seating, which I'm not entirely sure about. So anyway, the kind of, when we get in the new building, I have to give you the tour, because the inside architecture and public spaces are absolutely fabulous. And these boxes will be unpacked, and we will have our Delphic trees. So once the weather improves and we're back into spring and summer, maybe we can do a bit of a Q&A from the live Delphic space of mediation, reflection, meditation, and knowing thyself, surrounded by our Delphic trees. Good evening to those of you in Greece, Etienne, and to all of you, all of you joining from around the world. Yes, it's a bit neon at the moment, I have to admit. I apologise, Linda. Definitely, this is not kind of my preferred lighting, and I don't think the lime green seating will be my kind of background either. Sarah says you can make a temple out of the boxes. Yes, once they're all unpacked, we'll have to sustainably make sure that they are recycled, or make some kind of, get the students doing some kind of Greek architecture project out of it. I like it. Kiriaki, you're coming from Melbourne, where it's 4 a.m. in the morning. My lord, that is an early start for you indeed. It's great to see you all. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. So we have had some fabulous questions from you guys as always, and there's a couple that I want to pick up on that I've been waiting to respond. Now, the first one that we're going to go from the back to the front of kind of questions. So that the question that was asked the longest ago that I have not got round to answering so far is this, and it comes from Leanne Wemben Price, and you'll know instantaneously from the question how long ago it was asked. Here we go. So the question is this. You are asking about Midsummer. Oh dear, it is that long ago, I apologise. What were the ancient thoughts on this time of year, and how did they mark it? How did they mark Midsummer? Well, Midsummer does indeed feel an awfully long time ago, doesn't it? As the nights are now absolutely black out there. Leanne, you're listening. It's better late than never. Yes, thank you very much indeed. You are very gracious. I'm sorry this has taken so long to get to. Kind of thinking about how did people celebrate Midsummer. Now, actually, this is fascinating because Midsummer was indeed a big thing, and interestingly celebrated across a number of different ancient cultures. So, here in the UK, we will obviously have just got used to, well, we're familiar rather with the idea. Sorry, I saw Alexis's quote there about the clocks have just gone back, Prof. Yes, I know. I've missed Midsummer by quite some time. Thank you very much. We've just got used to the idea of having that hour in. I hope you all enjoyed the extra hour in bed over the weekends. Helen's enjoying the idea of cardboard temples for my new office. I think it'd be brilliant. I think it will last for ages until the rains come, and then it will all get destroyed and washed away very, very quickly, I fear. So, Midsummer celebrations. Of course, here in the UK, one immediately turns to think of Stonehenge, right? And kind of the way in which the circle is aligned, particularly with the sunrise on Midsummer. And I don't know if any of you have seen that fantastic matte cartoon in which there's a big truck that pulls up to grab one of the large boulders and move it with the inscription of kind of, oh God, I hate it when the clocks go back and forward and you have to adjust each time. So kind of they were even doing that with Stonehenge, according to Matt and his cartoons anyway. But actually you can see celebrations of Midsummer across a range of different cultures. So in Greece, actually the Midsummer point corresponded quite importantly with a particular festival, which was the Chronia, the festival of agriculture, but it also marked 1 month before the Olympic Games were supposed to start. And actually that month before the Olympic Games were supposed to start was actually the month that all the athletes who were intending to compete had to already be in place at the city of Elis to do their last month of training at Elis before they then competed in the Olympic Games. So actually the kind of Midsummer point was that they had to have arrived in Elis by that point to be able to go on to compete a month later in the Olympic Games. So Midsummer was kind of a deadline for them in that sense. So both a festival of agriculture and a deadline for the run-up to one of the great big events happening every 4 years, the Olympic Games. In Rome, again, we see this in the Roman world as being a point of a festival, a big festival. This is the Vestalia. So again, related to agriculture, fertility, and the celebration of growth. Right? Midsummer makes you think of murders, says Sarah. Good. Moving on swiftly. In Egypt, also, Midsummer is celebrated because in antiquity, because it was linked to the time of the Nile flooding. So absolutely crucial, that annual flooding of the Nile, without which they would never be able to grow enough crops to then be able to survive through the heat of the rest of the year. So if that didn't happen, things were going wrong. In Northern and Central Europe, that kind of got Midsummer. Actually, interestingly, in antiquity, seems to have been celebrated with a whole series of celebrations of bonfires and kind of lots of kind of celebrations in the dark, despite the fact that this is Midsummer. And China as well. Interestingly, you can see Midsummer being really associated in antiquity with the conception of the kind of female force at its strongest at the time of Midsummer. And kind of a solstice, kind of again, kind of we can break it down, can't we, into a bit of a Latin, a solstitium, a sort of standing still of the sun. But particularly my favourite that I came across while I was having a look into how other different cultures celebrated Midsummer was that for the Vikings, Midsummer was not a time to go partying and feasting and festivaling. It was not a time to get together, to prepare, do your last preparations for major kind of competitive sportive events, or indeed to have a bunch of bonfires. No. For the Vikings, Midsummer Point was the time to gather together to sort out legal matters. Kylie, thank you. Here in Latvia. So in Latvia, you have bonfire celebrations for Midsummer. Great to see. Really interesting to see that that's kind of continued through. How interesting. Thank you so much for letting us know. Yes, so for the Vikings, legal matters were sorted out at Midsummer. I guess this kind of presumes, if anyone knows more about Vikings, please let us know, that the Vikings didn't really bother with sorting legal matters, or at least sorting them out legally, kind of through a legal process. At any other time of year, I've got the impression that sort of every other time of year they sort of bashed each other over the head. Maybe that is a cruel misinterpretation of the Vikings, overly simplistic, and Michael, you should know better. And I apologise to all you Viking lovers and experts out there. So, Leanne, brilliant question. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm sorry it has taken us some time since Midsummer to after we have lost British summertime and gone back to GMT to get round to answer that question. But thank you for bringing it up as always. Now, we've also had some great questions coming in, and more recent ones, obviously. But again, I am going to go back to an older one first to answer, which I wanted to get to, which we're going to pass over swiftly Kelly Allen's question about how do I feel about returning the Algan marbles to Greece. We've covered this question a number of times, and it's an incredibly complex issue in all sorts of ways, because there are so many factors involved in this particular decision around these particular objects, but also then what might be the ramifications more widely for other sets of objects and other stories in other museums around the world. So we'll save that one perhaps for another time. But the question I wanted to come to was William Moulton. Now, William asked about the purification of ancient Greek murderers. Now, William, I hope this helps. I hope this means that you are not considering any kind of murder coming up soon and seeking to work out how to purify yourself. Now it's interesting, and in fact there's some really good articles, juicy articles dating back to the early 20th century journal scholarship on matters of intentional murder in ancient Greece versus unintentional murder, and then unintentional murder that could be justified or unintentional murder that was unjustifiable. So there was already lots of different conceptions of murder and how they would be treated legally. And there were different punishments associated for all these different levels and kinds of murder. But interestingly, when it came to the religious side of things, Williams has told us no murder intended. Excellent. This is good news. Thank you so much for confirming this. When it comes to the religious side of things, all murderers, whether you were murdering intentionally or unintentionally, and whether your unintentional murder was justifiable or not in the eyes of the law, all murderers attracted religious pollution. So on the religious side of things, whatever kind of murder you were committing, you still had committed something which attracted religious pollution to you. Now, this sense of pollution, which in the ancient Greek world is called miasma, was an extremely important concept. And you could attract pollution for all sorts of reasons, right? Having sex meant that you were in some ways polluted. If you then wanted to go and visit a particular religious sanctuary, you were actually considered polluted for a certain number of days after having sex, and you couldn't visit. Giving birth, being near death or being involved with death, all sorts of things caused you to be affected by miasma, pollution, and the rules around how long pollution lasted, what kind of pollution it was, what it stopped you from doing, how easy it was to pick up that pollution from others, as we're very kind of aware of this idea, aren't we, in a COVID world, we're all walking around with masks. You can imagine sort of a nice cartoon of everyone in ancient Greece walking around with masks on, trying not to pick up pollution from anyone else as they go round, are incredibly complicated, and they varied for all the different reasons that you were polluted, but then depended on the city-state that you were in. Each had different rules, and the types of sanctuaries and the gods and goddesses that each sanctuary was for, as to what the rules might be, as to when you could or could not enter that particular sanctuary, depending on what you've been doing the day before. Interesting. Sarah asks, so is murder catching? Well, the pollution associated with murder, if you then went on to associate with that murderer, yes. So that's one of the reasons why murder was actually taken so seriously. And things like, for instance, in ancient Athens, murderers were not allowed to, even if you'd committed justifiable unintentional murder, could not then enter the agora, for instance, the main marketplace. It was set up as a rule that you couldn't go into that central space because of the dangers of you bringing your pollution to the other people in the agora, but actually then more generally to the city-state. So William's question, now that we know that he is not intending murder, is actually saying, how do you purify yourself from murder? So if you say you've committed murder, probably of the unintentional kind, probably of the justifiable kind, and you are then kind of polluted, but then how do you go about purifying yourself? How do you get rid of that pollution? Because in relation to murder, it was not something that simply ended a certain number of days after your contact with it. It was much more considered to be a permanent stain. And William's question is around asking, is it right that actually the way that you purified yourself from murder involved a piglet and a priest re-enacting the scene of kind of murder over the person who was polluted? So hang on, this for a moment sounds absolutely bonkers, doesn't it? You have to commit more murder of an animal in order to purify a murderer. But actually, yes, this is what seems to have happened. There's a great article here, if you get hold of either online or in print, the Oxford Classical Dictionary, which particularly the online version, which has some really good modern, up-to-date, expanded articles. There is a great article on purification by Robert Parker, and if you have a read of that, then that kind of goes into all the different ways in which you can purify, depending on what the pollution was that you were trying to purify. And sometimes it could be done with sulfur, sometimes it could be done just with reciting certain words or incantations, or traveling to certain places, or kind of pilgrimages in that way. But if it was blood-stained, i.e. from murder, the only way in which to wash off that blood was to wash it off with blood from an animal victim who had had his or her throat slit for the intention of purifying the murderer. So there you go. William, you're absolutely right that purification of a murderer, if it was to be attempted in the ancient Greek world, could only be done. That blood stain could only be removed by the shedding and the washing of hands with more blood that had been spilt for that occasion. And that's a really interesting concept, isn't it? That you kind of get your head around the idea of solving or purifying pollution by creating a similar kind, but a very cleansing kind of act of murder. So kind of thing, absolutely brilliant. So thank you, William, for that question. Indeed, that's absolutely great. Now we have a couple of things to flag to you because time is already running on away from us. Things that are in the news I've particularly enjoyed that we've been flagging on the Facebook page over the last couple of weeks, particularly the winery, the 1,500-year-old winery found in Israel, just south of Tel Aviv, estimated to have produced 2 million litres a year of wine. So by golly gosh, this is mass production of wine. Absolutely love this. But then equally, there's been in Palestine, where am I looking? In the West Bank, isn't it? Yes, the Palestinians have unveiled one of the largest floor mosaics in the world in the city of Jericho in the occupied West Bank. So they've spent some 5 years restoring the mosaic, dating back over 1,000 years, which was only actually rediscovered first off in the 19th century. So lots going on in that part of the world. But then also in Herculaneum, they found a sensational, so it's described by The Guardian, skeleton, partly mutilated remains of a man buried by the AD 79 Mount Vesuvius eruption at Herculaneum. The man was aged between 40 and 45 and was killed just steps away from the sea as he tried to flee the eruption. Absolutely brilliant, evocative stuff there. But equally, I rather enjoyed the story that here in good old UK, the Yorkshire Museum has managed to acquire a 1,800-year-old Roman hoard, including a bust of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of my favourite kind of guys, and all are found by metal detectorists in a field near Ampleforth back in May 2020, and the hoard is now known as the Rydale Roman Bronzes. bronzes, which I think sounds like a brilliant name, the Rydale Roman bronzes, and kind of they are captured forever now for the Yorkshire Museum. So well done, the Yorkshire Museum. Lots of great stuff going on also in the UK, thanks to HS2. Now, we don't say that very often, things thanks to HS2, but astounding, again, The Guardian, they love their kind of words like this, don't they? Astounding Roman statues unearthed at a Norman church ruins on the route of HS2. So the statues of a Roman man, woman and child have been uncovered by archaeologists at an abandoned medieval church on the route of the HS2 railway. Also a hexagonal glass Roman jug uncovered, and the pieces were largely intact, so they are going to be worked on, right, kind of for a little while to stabilise, and then hopefully they will be on display for us to be able to see soon. And this idea of a glass Roman jug reminds us that the Romans actually were one of the best glass makers of the entire ancient world, anywhere in the ancient world. They're far ahead, in fact, of many other parts of the ancient world, and it was particularly in the Eastern Mediterranean that was the nexus of the glass making industry. And obviously this is something that doesn't often survive through to us or because of the fragility of it, but when you do get a chance in museum collections to see a surviving piece of Roman glassware, whether it be a simple glass, whether it be a jug, whether it be an ornately decorated with lots of different coloured pieces of glass that have been flexed in different ways, it is absolutely astounding the quality of the work that they were able to kind of perform. So absolutely brilliant and well worth seeing. Well done, HS2. We never thought we'd say that, did we? I am off as soon as I possibly can to Sissinghurst because I want to see in Kent, in England's best known country garden, the new Delos garden. You know well that Delos is one of my favourite places in the Aegean, but now we can visit Delos inside Sissinghurst Gardens in Kent. It's a half-acre garden of dusty paths and stone, weathered trees and colour-rich Aegean scrub, scented with the musky Mediterranean aromas of thyme, yarrow, gamanda and oregano. I want to be there. Thank you very much indeed for flagging that to us. And then, of course, again here in the UK, but perhaps something that we could do without, it's dear old Boris Johnson shouting about the Roman Empire falling due to uncontrolled immigration. Well, I think you'll have seen a pretty much unanimous stance from classicists responding to this, saying what a load of rubbish. And kind of this is where actually, frankly, using history badly to talk and make comments about the real world is very, very unhelpful indeed. So Boris, boo on that score. What's on in the ancient world? Well, there's lots of things going on. So the Liverpool Classical Association, which has recently come back into force, has got a talk coming up on the 4th of November. In fact, that's today at 7 p.m. You can get there. If you're anywhere near Liverpool, get there tonight. Andrew Fear will be talking about Blood and Sand, Rome's Gladiators. And then Edith Hall will be talking on the 10th of November in London, but it also can be watched online about ancient Greek and Roman libraries. Really, really interesting topic indeed. There are two dates that we have not yet flagged on the Facebook page, but I am telling you about them now, live. You get to hear about them first. And two dates that I'll be doing in November in the Coventry area at Warwick University, and both of them in the newly refurbished, newly reopened Warwick Arts Centre. So do come along to marvel at this new structure. One's going to be on the 25th of November, and that's going to be in the middle of the day between about 1 and 2 p.m. We've got a festival going on called the Feelings of Freedom Festival. Don't worry, I'm not going to be running around sort of yelling I'm free. We're going to be talking about concepts of fake news in ancient Athens and in ancient Greek democracy. So the whole festival is thinking about concepts of freedom and ideas of freedom, and kind of we're going to be doing a little bit about was there fake news in ancient Athens. So it'll be myself and one of my postgraduate students who I've been working with over the summer on what we call at the Warwick University a URSS project, an undergraduate research scholarship scheme project, which has a public public engagement angle, and she has recently launched her thoughts in a new blog called Truth Decays, and we flagged this on the webpage. So that's Catherine Broderick and I will be talking on the 25th of November. And then on the 6th of December, again in the Warwick Arts Centre, and I'm super excited about this, I have managed to wangle a little walk-on part in the Warwick Christmas lectures. Now, if any of you ever been to the Warwick Christmas lectures before, these are actually science-based. Yes, I have managed to wangle my way into a science lecture in which they blow things up and do experiments on stage. And I am awfully excited that I might get to sort of break something apart, explode something. I'm probably actually, I've been told, just going to have to stand there and get hit with balls, hopefully plastic inflatable balls. But it's going to be about the seeing sound. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about ancient amphitheatres and the ways in which they were designed to create perfect acoustics, and that's going to be then leaped forward by my science colleagues, particularly the Deputy Academic Director of the Warwick Institute of Engagement that I now run, Rachel Edwards, who will be taking that forward and will be then showing how we can see sound in all sorts of amazing ways. So on the 6th of December, be about 7 o'clock in the evening. Tickets will be on sale, well, are on sale now, I think, for the Christmas lecture, not quite yet for Feelings of Freedom. I am just got a little walk-on part in kind of my 3 minutes to talk about ancient amphitheatres, and then they will be romping through the modern science of seeing sound. So I'm very excited to take part in that. Come along and be a Lee, amphitheatres or theatres, good point. Thank you for putting me up on that. Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking mainly about theatres, I think, in my 3 minutes. But then the scientists are going to shut me up, I think, by throwing things at me after that. So, have we got time for another quick question? Yes, we have. Just a couple more minutes. Tracy Rabiota have been asking about the fact that her chief parenting role at the moment seems to be spider evacuation. Your daughter is terrified of them, and I know how you feel. My partner is absolutely terrified of spiders, and I have spent quite a bit of time sorting them out as well. So I feel for you, Tracy. But it got you wondering whether irrational fears and anxieties were recognised in the ancient world. And of course, phobia coming from the Greek, but kind of developing that more recently. Now, so I've been doing some work into this and thinking about this. And actually, there are some very good research that has recently come out of the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig. Because for a long time, it's been very hard to work out whether fear of spiders and snakes, for instance, is something which is kind of we are born with, it's actually wired into our brains, or whether it is something that we develop because of how the people around us react. So if our parents react really strongly to spiders, then we're going to react really strongly to spiders, or friends, or whatever it might be. And actually, the research coming out of the Max Planck Institute has shown, by watching pupils of 6-month-old children when they're shown photos in light-controlled situations of different kinds of animals and different kinds of things, that our pupils react in a way that is clearly identifiable with stress responses in the body to seeing pictures of spiders and of snakes, not of things like rhinoceroses or lions or tigers or lots of other kind of things that we might think are scary, but specifically to spiders and to snakes. And so what the team are arguing is that actually we have an inbuilt evolutionary biological stress reaction to seeing particularly spiders and snakes, and they are attributing this to the fact that actually spiders and snakes as reptiles have been around for a long time, a lot longer in terms of their relationship with early humans than have other kinds of mammals. So actually there's been enough time in evolutionary biological states for us to evolve a knee-jerk reaction to particularly spiders and snakes and to reacting in a stressful way to them. So it is not an irrational fear, it is an inbuilt, it seems, evolutionary, biological response within humankind. But this is complicated within each particular culture because in ancient Greece, for instance, snakes, on the other hand, were considered to be very holy and important things. Think of Asclepius, the god of healing. What's his symbol? It's the staff with a snake wrapped around it. And in sanctuaries of healing, of Asclepius, there were always snakes kept that were seen as holy snakes, and actually kind of sometimes actually being confronted with those snakes was one of the routes to healing. So now snakes have a really complex relationship with the ideas of healing and rejuvenation because of the way that they are able to shed their skin and seemingly shed the old and emerge new and refreshed and rejuvenated. So there's this really interesting kind of dichotomy and tension, not so much with spiders, I think we just agree, all kind of agree they're a bit kind of weird and ugly and awful and horrible, but kind of with the snakes, on the one hand we seem to have this evolutionary biological response to them as danger, but at the same time many cultures have actually then advanced them as a symbol of healing, as a symbol of rejuvenation, as something to be honoured and to be worshipped and to be thought of as extremely important. Absolutely, and Alexis is talking about snakes predicting earthquakes and things, which has also scientifically been proven to be the case. So there we go, Tracy. Absolutely fantastic question. Helen says, and great note to end on, always remember that spiders are more frightened of you than we are of them. Absolutely, Helen. Thank you very much indeed for reminding us of that indeed. Well, we are out of time. I have two things to say to you before you go. First is, when are we meeting next time? It's going to be a couple more, an extra week than usual. We're going to have to wait 3 weeks. But 25th of November at 5 p.m. That's when we're going to be meeting next. 25th of November, 5 p.m. Put it in your diaries. I hope you can join us. The second thing is that, yes, the Prof. Michael Scott calendar is coming back for 2022. It is printed, it is with me, it is available, and the only thing that is holding me back from shouting it to the rooftops and saying, get your orders in for Christmas, is the delightful selling system on Amazon, which is not allowing me to set it up as a calendar properly on the system. Now, at the moment, if you are eagle-eyed on Amazon, you can go and have a look for the Prof. Michael Scott calendar, and you will find an item listed as the Prof. Michael Scott 2021 calendar. But if you have a look at the photos attached to that object, you will notice that they are all photos of the 2022 calendar. No, they are not in the boxes behind me, Lee, at all. So if you do put in an order to Amazon right now for the object which is labelled as the Prof. Michael Scott 2021 calendar, have no fear, you will get the 2022 calendar. Yes, available all countries in the world for delivery through the post. Australia, if you're in Australia, you can't order through Amazon, but do just email us at michaelscottacademic@gmail.com. Let us know your address, let us know the order, and you can pay through PayPal. And if you would prefer not to go through Amazon while it's being problematic, then do just email us at michaelscottacademic@gmail.com, and we can respond to let you know how to pay through PayPal. So yes, on my website, there is a blog now live as well that tells you a little bit about the calendar, shows you some photos of it as well, the different months, and tells you about last posting dates for Christmas to make sure it can get to you wherever you are around the world. You can, of course, get them signed. So again, on Amazon, just as you go through the normal order process, apart from the fact it's saying 2021, just put in the details when you're ordering for the gifting as to whether you want the calendar signed, and if so, what kind of message, or just specify that in your email, and we will get that calendar out to you. And hopefully, I will wrestle with the demons of the Amazon machine over the next few days and get that working properly. So yes, I can confirm, if you Google Prof. Michael Scott calendar 2021, you'll see photos of the 2022 calendars, you'll see photos of what you're getting, and that is what you will be getting through the post if you put in an order now. So you've heard it here first, and we'll be putting some information out about that on the Facebook page. Thanks, Claire, for doing that, over the next couple of days as well, and hopefully we'll get those Amazon gremlins resolved before too long. We've gone over our time. Thank you so much for your time today. Very much looking forward to seeing you on the 25th of November. In the meantime, hopefully by that stage, these boxes will be unpacked. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and keep warm as the temperatures descend as we approach winter. Take care. Bye-bye.